Is 100% of it true, of what you say? In fact, actually, of your employer, he likes you, wants to hire you, or she likes you, wants to hire you, are they also going to be 100% truthful, or are they also going to try to persuade you? I think it's all around us. It's always been around us. And I don't see it as a bad thing. It is what it is.
Sorry, have you found any situation where you don't have any options? And what did you do in that situation?
When you mean options, you mean with a client?
In your growth model, so you have your goal, you have your reality, and you find that you don't have options because your competitors is covering all of the simple options, so you have to go complex, or you have to rethink about that. What are your options? Have you found any situation like this, and what did you do, or what's your advice related to that?
Okay. Some of my clients that I work for, the users don't have any options. So one of my clients had, for all its sales staff, so one client, one group of sales staff that only worked for that client, the client said, yeah, we want them to be more motivated. So we want to design a system that would increase their motivation levels so that they would sell more. Today, if you look online, your natural reaction would be, oh, gamification, we'll just add that, because that works with a lot of the motivators. And gamification actually fails in 80% of cases, according to Gartner says gamification fails. You need to think more about long-term game strategies. So I'm just trying to reflect back to your question. I suspect I might have deviated. So yeah, so no options. It is what it is. You'd have no choice. In which case, my job is just to make it better. And to make it better, yes, I look to the motivation, but I also look to their ability. So I say, how can I make this easier for these sales staff to use this system? Just easier. No learning required. It's just so basic. And then I add some fun to it. But not constantly. This isn't about, we don't want salespeople having dopamine addictions to what do you call it, like a logging system, to log sales. That's not the point of a logging system. But we at least want them to feel somehow motivated to use it, just enough to use it. So that way, there's something really interesting. This year, I was fortunate enough to study under Dr. B.J. Fogg from Stanford University. If you're not familiar with him, definitely check out some of his YouTube videos, because he really explains really well the importance of making things simple and motivational.
Hi, I wanted to ask how do you find the emotion that you want to connect with? Like, if I have a product that is supposed to help professionals in their work, how do I know that it's fear I have to connect with, or anything else? Like, do you do A/B testing, or do you play with marketing tags? Do you do interviews? And I have a second question that is related to that, is when you say keep it simple, do you mean pick one emotion, or do you, or is it, have you had good experience with trying to include different, like both fear and the will to be part of a community, or belonging? Yeah.
Okay, so the first question was, do I pick one emotion? Is that right? Oh, that was the second. Okay, in which case the first one.
How do you know it? How do you know which one?
Okay, right. Okay, great. So how do I know what's the emotion? Well, actually, we're all exceptionally good at answering that question. You and I can have a conversation, and you can subconsciously, you can read my emotions, just the way I'm behaving right now. You can see how I'm feeling, And feelings are emotions, so you see that. So if anyone's using your existing system or platform, and you observe them, and that's something maybe I didn't mention. So when I do the interviews, I also do observational research. So I don't ask them how they use a system, but I do ask for if I can, next time they use it, if I can just watch it. That definitely. In fact, actually, this toy nearly didn't exist because of a marketing blunder. We had a bag with 4 prototypes in. There was the monkey, there was a blue chicken, a pig, and something else. I can't remember now. This was years ago. We have the kids all around the table. We've got the mirror, the camera behind it, and you've got the mums and dads there as well. And they pull, one by one, the prototypes out, and they show the kids. And you think, okay, great. And then they ask kid number 1, which one of these 4 do you like? This is why you shouldn't ask. The pig said, the pig. And then the other 3 went, the pig, definitely the pig. They all said the pig. We're all conditioned when you ask, is this an exam? I have to give you the right answer. That's how we've been conditioned like that. So even from kids react like that. The first kid was a big kid. The first kid was a big kid. They all thought, naturally, protect from harm kicked in their brain. It went, okay, if you're going to hit anybody, you hit the big kid, you might as well sit in line with him. So they did that. Then we went back to the video and did the observational part. Because marketing said, okay, everyone says the pig, make the pig. Get the container loads ready. And we said, no, let's look at the video. And we looked at the kids' faces, their eyes and their mouths, when we pulled out each prototype. And when they all saw the monkey, you had that natural, oh, that curiosity, that enlightenment, like, oh, I like this. And we can all read that on our faces. So that observation is the best way to really find that emotion. I hope I answered it. So stop asking, start observing when it comes to emotions. And what I've just told you about the 7 states, hope, fear, pain, pleasure, acceptance, rejections, I think that alone, you will gain so much. So that's it. Thank you. Okay. Good morning. About 20 years ago, I was 1 week away from starting my degree course in psychology. This was a dream degree course, and so I spent many years really waiting for this moment. And then suddenly, I started to panic. I realized something wasn't quite right. But up here, I started to think, I don't know if this is really for me, maybe I'm not mentally prepared, maybe I'll go crazy if I learn all this crazy stuff. I thought, I don't even want to be a therapist. I've got enough problems of my own. So I did what any healthy being would do in that circumstance. I bought a ticket, I got on an airplane, I flew to Cologne. I couldn't speak a word of German, and I spent a year working as a bellboy. Slightly irrational, perhaps, but I'd like to argue that we are all very, very irrational. Our users, our consumers, are very, very irrational in their behavior. People do crazy stuff, like spending days queuing outside a store just so they can be the first person in that area to have that product, just for a few hours. I spent some time, so my first job, I spent some time working for some dark forces of nature. My office was the Death Star, if you like, but not because of the work conditions. The pay was great, my colleagues were great. What we were designing and creating was not so great. So it was the dark forces of nature because of what we were creating. We were creating evil systems, highly addictive systems designed to distract and at the same time extract. So extract your money. These are systems, very simple. They've been around. The whole methodology behind the gambling machine has been around for well over 100 years, so it's very well documented how they work. At its essence, it's about a variable reward. In fact, we actually call them variable reward systems. So there's a big clue there. They are designed specifically to have high frequency, short cycles, very much about stimulating the dopamine production in your brain. Extremely simple. They have levels. You're in a very confined environment. And we as humans, we're very loss averse. But when we're in this system, we get so sucked in. And this is where the addiction comes. This constantly playing with our minds and stimulating our senses, from the lights flashing, the crescendo sounds. Every time you put a coin in there, we immediately start with a diddle-diddle-diddling, and it gets you excited, like, oh, there's something exciting about to happen. So we're really manipulating your expectations. That lasted for about 3 years until Interpol came and closed the company down. We later found out on the news that we were, in fact, working for some genuine dark forces of nature. In this case, it was the French mafia. We didn't know that. So that changed that job. But my career obviously didn't stop there, and I later became head of design for an international toy manufacturer, and this was a truly exciting experience. I managed to work with, I had an exciting team, an exciting, really talented team of designers, and working on brands, labels that every single person in this room knows. Brands like Spiderman, Pocoyo, Mickey Mouse, obviously. So all the Disney brands, Barbie as well. And during this period, we designed, or I was responsible for the design of over 150 toys. All of them very different, all of them creating unique experiences. And one of the interesting things about toys is that the buyer is not the user. And this really throws a whole new twist to how we are even communicating the toy, how it works. And this is what I'm going to talk a little bit about in this very short period that we are here today. So the thing about toys, I believe, is very, very relevant to us as adults. I believe there's very little difference. And I've worked with brands or companies like NASA, Rocker, Vodafone, and I see that what they're asking for are very similar dynamics that we're applying sometimes in the casino industry, but also, and more so, within the toy industry. So the first question is, for creating an exciting product, who were we even designing for? It may shock some people to even contemplate that we are actually designing delightful, exciting products. We're actually designing specifically for a part of our brain that comes from our past, that's evolved with us, that prehistoric chimpanzee. You see, we are hardwired with this part of our brain. Even though we've evolved over many, many centuries, this part hasn't been deleted. And this part is still just as strong as it was back then. In fact, we actually have this internal conflict, and you've all had it. Whenever you're in the shop and you impulsively see a special offer, 50% discount, and you're like, for a nice pair of shoes. And then your rational part, the frontal part, is there going, yeah, but I shouldn't. Another part saying, go on, you should. You ever wondered who's up here doing all that talking? Well, now you know. And this little guy is really powerful. So this is derived directly from the limbic system. It's often referred to as the croc, or the reptilian brain, you may have heard it. And it's highly emotional. There is two evolutionary psychologists just last year were talking about these 7 states or 7 primary motives that every single one of us, regardless of our sex, our age, our background, our history, we all have working continuously and making a lot of big decisions for us. The two evolutionary psychologists, they're called Kenrich and Griske, I have to read this, Griskevicius, a very challenging word. So I'm going to very quickly tell you what those 7 states are. And if you're working on a project right now, I want you to listen to those 7 states and ask yourself which one of those is most, your project is most connecting with. I do hope at least your project is connecting with at least one of those states. If not, you actually should have some big questions. The first one, avoid harm. So we have evolved. Think about the fight, the flight, the freeze modes, this avoiding harm. If you see 2 people in the streets today, even in the modern urban jungle, having a fight, it's very unlikely you're just going to run and just start hugging everybody and like, yay, embrace this. No, you're going to try and avoid it. You may have noticed when you're driving in a car or in a motorbike and someone cuts you up, how you feel this, oh, what do? You hit the horn, wave your arms. There's nothing rational about that. In fact, it's quite a dangerous act. In fact, you're doing all this instead of pushing the brake pedal. So the person in front is suddenly at serious high risk of having an accident. Disease avoidance. If I come close to you and sneeze, you'll know your reaction. You go to the toilet and you're coming out of the bathroom and you see the door handle and you go to open it and you touch and it's wet. And you just think, no, please tell me, right? There's no rational part. It's probably realistically just water. There's no problem. You're not going to die. And some just wash their hands and it's okay. They're probably very hygienic handle. Probably now cleaner until you touched it because you didn't wash your hands. Or, for example, the Ebola. We've all seen how the media has portrayed the Ebola crisis and how the fear, how it connects with our inner, this fear. We want to bubble wrap everybody who sneezes and looks ill, has a fever, just in case. Number 3, making friends or collaboration. Humans have evolved successfully thanks to this form of collaboration. In fact, what we're doing right now is a collaborative act. Our society is very complex, but at its root really has this essence of collaboration. Just think about Facebook. Think about a lot of these public platforms. Think about, just trying to think of, it'll come to me. Homework, think about it. Status. Status is an obvious one. We're all prone to it. We're all susceptible to it. Especially if you're amongst your friends, you want to climb status amongst that. In your career, amongst your work colleagues, there's this natural inner drive to climb the social ladder in some way. We like to express it with a fancy watch or a nice car. We're not telling anybody how much debt we're in, but we've got the nice house and the car, and that's the important thing. And then, of course, mate attraction. Tinder, even Facebook. Mate attraction is a really interesting subject. The cliche sex sells, we all know that. But it's funny how we behave when someone of the opposite sex or the sex that we're attracted to becomes very close to us, the way our behavior changed, the pulling out the, making myself look good, hi, the girl, with her hair, just to attract. So it really changes the way we behave. And then, of course, mate retention. This is essential. Without this, realistically, none of us would have really be around today. This is the next step before the final step, which is kin care, taking care of children. It's well documented that raising children is expensive. There's a very good reason why it's expensive, because we will pay a lot of money to take care of our children, because our children are very special. They're far more special than your children. Our children deserve the best we can give them. And designing toys, a part of it is playing along that lines. You'll notice on a lot of toys, they always try to put some educational value on the text on the side. That's not for the kid. The kid probably can't read. And if they can, they're not going to read that part. That's just to let you know that this purchase you're making is a wise decision. It's for their education. So we're very loss-averse. We don't like to lose anything. That's why that classic, try now, pay later, or if you don't like it, give it back. Our primal chimpanzee state very quickly grows emotionally attached to objects that we have. Anything, and we start to associate stories and meaning behind this bottle. This was the bottle that I had on the table at this event. And by nature, I'm more likely to grow some emotional attachment to this. And if somebody takes my water, whoa, hang on, this bottle has meaning. A really good example that I recommend every one of you try, and I'm sure most of the people in this room, you've all flown with EasyJet. Yeah? Good. Well, I'm not saying good because of EasyJet. I'm just no brand association, please. But if next time you go to the website, I'd like you all just to look for a minute. So the first thing is, you pick your flights, you put in the location where you're going to, the date, and then you get another page. And on that other page, there's something very subtle, very clever at work, designed specifically to hone in on these guys, on this part of your brain. You see, we will spot anything that moves. In a room that's still, if somebody suddenly stands up, I'm going to spot it. My brain has evolved to spot it. Your brain has evolved to spot it. And on the EasyJet page, there's this, you see all the offer, all the different dates with all the different prices. But just above that is a little symbol, a clock. And then it says things like, 65 people are also looking at the same route. You think, whoa, Jesus, this is busy. And then it flips, and it says 4 seats left, or one seat just been purchased. And it's playing on this loss aversion, this scarcity dynamic, and it's emotion. It's the only thing on the page that's moving. And it's so thin and subtle, but you will detect it. And it will start to stimulate this form of mild anxiety. And it really affects your decision-making process. You suddenly go, okay, I need to make a decision now for fear of this loss. So these 7 states, we've just discovered that we can externally manipulate them. So this is how the brain works. There's an excellent book that I would recommend. It's called The Chimp Paradox by Dr. Steve Peters. And it really explains in a very clear manner how we are making decisions all the time. So it talks about these 3 characters playing all together. We know the monkey is pretty complex, very emotional, but we've also got that frontal, the new guy in town, that new part of our brain that makes very cold, rational decisions, that looks at things in a very analytical manner. And then we have this, if you like, this built-in computer in here we store a lot of things, but in particular, past experiences. Our limiting belief system is stored there. And we also store things like how to behave in everyday society. And these things often in conflict as opposed to beautifully aligned. You know what it's like when you've had a couple of beers? Who is making the decisions then? That little limbic system just says, get out of the way. This is my show. If I want to dance at the bar on my own, it's fine. In fact, have you ever noticed that? If you ever arrived at a party late, everyone's so late that everyone's already drunk, and you're looking at them from this very cold position, like, what the hell is everyone doing? What are they talking about? People just do the crazy stuff because it's this guy, the limbic system, that's doing all the work. Next time you see someone eating a chocolate muffin or something like that, don't ask me if it's me eating it, but next time one of your work colleagues, ask them, why are you eating a chocolate muffin? More often than not, they'll say, oh, I was hungry. Well, in that shop where they bought it, there's loads of stuff they could have eaten. But why the chocolate muffin? What is it with chocolate? What is it with sweet things that we love so much that just overrides our rational decision-making? Rationally, we know it's so unhealthy. Smoking, we know it's unhealthy. Gambling, drinking, all this stuff, we know it's not good for us, but we do it anyway. And we have all these different motivations at work. We have motivations like hope and fear, pain and pleasure, acceptance and rejection. In fact, there was in fact a BBC documentary not long ago that was talking about prisoners in solitary confinement. So these are obviously prisoners. They've done something, they've broken the rules of society, and they're being punished for it. And then when they're in prison, they then still don't behave accordingly, so they move into solitary confinement. And these people, they've done lots of tests on these people, and these people could be like anybody like us in this room. Well, we are emotionally relatively stable, relatively rational. But when we put in solitary confinement, this extreme form of rejection, it actually rewires our brain. And these people start to self-harm themselves. They desperately start cutting themselves up. So they find they get access to tiny razors, and they will literally just cut themselves up and bleed everywhere. And they will, for example, and they will just cause havoc, like poo, and then throw that at the windows, and they do all these things for one sole reason: this desperate need to be touched, this desperate need for some form of acceptance. So again, very, very powerful. So we know we like to party, we know we love pleasure, and we love to run away from fear, and we are driven by that feeling of acceptance. In fact, if any of you, next time you look at Facebook, you'll discover that Facebook uses every single one of those 6 motivators I just talked about: hope, fear, pain, pleasure, acceptance, rejection. It plays all 6 of those motivators in a very similar way that religion does, but that's for another. We'll discuss that over a beer, that one. But it's very, very similar. So, manipulation. So I've spent 17 years basically working in the field, interviewing a lot of people to try and find out where the business opportunity really is, how to make a product better, more exciting. And for some of you in this room, your hearts will be racing faster right now, whether you like it or not. And the more you stare at that picture, the more, and you were thinking, don't stare at the picture. But your monkey's saying, come on, let me look. I feel so much pleasure when I look. Someone's saying, that is disgusting, a disgrace. What mode is she in? Kin care or mate attraction? I think we know that one, right? Pretty clear, pretty effective. And everybody has their own techniques for doing that. There's no harm in that. It's just one of those 7. So we are loss averse, except when we are under mate attraction mode, which is why, again, I said before about sex selling. When we're in mate attraction mode, our mind just starts, and actually, I had a glimpse. I actually noticed right now my chest just got slightly tense and started racing. And I thought, and I've seen this picture before. I built the PowerPoint. But it's like, oh dear, better. So, when we are in mate attraction mode, we don't become loss averse. We become very focused on gain. We only see what we can gain. And this is why so many adults find it so hard to be faithful in a relationship. This is why Ashley Madison is so successful. I don't know if any of you know that website. Of course you don't. But just to remind those who don't, Ashley Madison is a website for couples who basically want to have an extramarital affair. And it's pretty clear about it. And it's focused very much on that. But if you just think rationally, you say, hang on, I have everything to lose. A divorce, the cost of that, the children, the getting a new whatever, apartment, all these other things. It's a huge loss. But we just get so much into, yeah, but look what I'm going to gain for a one-night stand. That pleasure. Dangerous. So this will turn some of your hearts in a very different direction. But again, it's something that really connects. I'd actually like you, just for a minute, just to tune in to yourself, to your body, to just how you feel when you see that imagery. From a rational position, you could say, well, this person's their lives being saved, and that's a good thing. But there's this, the primary part again is saying, yeah, but look at the suffering, look at the pain, the injustice almost. Like, why that child? And we can really, it connects with a very different part. And creating emotional products and services is so hard to do, especially when you're staring at this all day. When you're looking at Google Analytics or any other type of analytics, what are you seeing? And just so we're clear about this, your monkey, the emotional part of your brain, is not very good at maths. So what part of the brain is being activated when it comes to the maths? The front, cold part, the part that really isn't feeling the product, isn't feeling, in this case, 31,420 page views or clicks or whatever. The feeling is gone. So this is why companies then, when they look at this and they get confused and they don't know what to do with their product, they hire me to literally, so actually this is actually a piece of one of my clients. So I've marked out there 3 colors, 3 bands of personas that I've identified that have very distinct behaviors to each other. I've broken them out on that and said, okay, this is a different behavior, there's different, and I will then go out into the field and connect with those people so I can identify why. I really want to find out the why, because I can't build an emotional product or suggest anything vaguely emotional just by looking at something that's so cold. So, as I mentioned before, I've been doing this for about 17 years, and I realized I've been using the wrong tools. I've been interviewing I don't know how many people in my life, and yeah, the tools I've been using, like empathy maps, and I was even using some marketing tools, and I'd even do things like use sometimes SWOT analysis and creating all these personas with a photo, their name, their occupation, their sex, their marital status, their education level, and none of it had any meaning. And it was giving me the wrong results. And so I said, well, what one tool can I use that's so simple, so effective, so robust, it can work on kids and 90-year-olds. And I realized that this tool, not only is it simple, I can actually share with you right now. So you can actually walk away from this session today, this morning, with at least one new tool in your toolbox. And it's a tool that I found in a completely different sector, in the world of life coaching. See, life coaches have a similar challenge to what I do. They are trying to get a person from A to B successfully. They want them to end up with a great result, to achieve their dreams, to feel good about themselves, whatever it is. And they're using very simple tools. And they're using it well, time and time again. And I can teach you in 5 minutes. So this tool, like I said, comes from the world of life coaching. And I had to backtrack one slide. And to find it, I took a long route round. So I got into studying a lot about Buddhism and that kind of thing, because Buddhism really, at its essence, is about the duel between the limbic system and the frontal cortex, right, and the frontal lobe. It's about this fight. It's about trying to get rational control over these emotions. And there's this quote that I heard that talks about life, our lives, being like the ocean. And they said, you can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf. And I thought that's a great way of living your life and seeing life. But then I also realized that therein lies every business opportunity. Because if you understand that every one of us in this room, every day, we have hundreds of little and sometimes big waves we're trying to surf. And if we have the right surfboard, then we're going to really enjoy the ride. So your job is to design, ultimately, surfboards that deliver amazing experiences. So let me now talk about the GROW model. So this is the bit you can take notes. GROW. Step 1. So at the beginning, at the center, focus. At the center, I would swap that word focus for your users, your customers. That's them at the center. And the starting block is their goal. What are they trying to achieve? What are they trying to do? And actually, as part of this, ask yourself again about your own projects you're working on and your users. What are they trying to do? Is my mum trying to call me? Yes. But why? What's her goal by calling me? Well, kin care, perhaps? Is she motivated by the pleasure derived behind that? The acceptance part? Imagine, you know what it's like when you call someone, they don't answer. You call them again, they don't answer. You call them again, you're like, what the hell? And you have that sense of rejection. Like, what? Their phone could be dead or something, but you are feeling something else. So what's their goal? What's their story? I normally start out very quickly, and I do sometimes 20-minute interviews to get through the whole of this. Say, okay, what's their background? And then I very quickly get focused into, okay, what's their goal? The goal, they say to me, it's to make a call. I want to know what about that call. Who are they calling? What's the link? What's that connection, the emotional connection? And the reality. My mum's she's bought a computer. She's retired. She's doesn't have much experience with computers. She's trying to connect with me more through Skype. It's becoming very problematic for her. She's paranoid about that little dot on the top of her screen, that it's like Big Brother always staring at her, even when the machine's off. You know, so she has these perceptions. That's her reality. And then her options. What are your clients or customers' options? Now, options I would swap for competitor analysis. For your products and services, you've probably done a very thorough competitive analysis, so that's okay. But you find that most of the time, your customer is unaware of most of the competitors that you're aware of. They don't even know they exist. They might know one or two of them. Like if we think about phones, if I say Orange, you go Vodafone, Movistar. But then you start to tail off with a couple of other ones, and you don't know who else is out there. So the question is this, that I ask is, why are you not with them? What's stopping you? I don't know, I haven't really thought about it. I'm okay with this. What part of this is okay? Well, it does what it says it's supposed to do. And what does it say it's supposed to do? And it's just keeping things simple. Keeping things really simple. Say, okay, so what would make you change? What would have to fail in your product for your users to leave and go somewhere else. And then the way forward is your new product, your iteration, based on this, based on people's goals, their reality, so where they are today, where they want to be, and the options, the competitors that they could have, the other routes they could take. Before I get to this, this is actually near the end. I want to introduce you to somebody who nearly didn't make it today. Nearly didn't make it because it's one of my daughter's favorite toys. And nicely, it's a monkey. That keeps things in theme. And it has sold millions. This was one of the designs that I worked on. And it doesn't do much. It doesn't do much. I don't know if you've ever seen it before. If you go to Toys R Us or any of these toy shops, it sits in a box, has a little try me. I just noticed my daughter's now put a sticker of a cow on it. But it has a try me. It doesn't even work, this one, it's broken. You press the button, and it wobbles its head like this, in the box. In the box. And it goes, ha, 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 makes a funny laughing noise. And then it goes, yep, I heard it. We laugh. It's a fart. And that's it. That is it. It's been on so many TV shows all over the world because of a fart. And that is it. It's almost frustratingly painful that that is it. Especially when we're clever people. We're always trying to think up clever ideas and solutions to add to our products, when sometimes it's just as simple as one thing that can make all the difference. So I'm going to close my part, and as we move into Q&A, is I'm actually going to start the Q&A. I'm going to start the Q&A over to you by asking some questions. This, to me, is what I believe, after 17 years of creating, actually now over 250 different experiences, I've come to the conclusion that this is one of the consistently best experiences in the world. A puddle. So my question to you, and please speak, why? What does this have that makes it so special? Over to you. I can always point at somebody. Sorry? I can't. It's forbidden. It's forbidden. It's forbidden. Okay, so scarcity, you could say, like, you're not supposed to. Scarcity, you could link it in together. Yes. Yes. It's forbidden. Yeah, but, okay. I want to know, define that. Because there lies a bit of the magic. What's fun about a puddle? Sorry? Getting dirty. Getting dirty. You're not allowed to. Getting dirty. Yeah. Okay, what else? It's risk. Okay, so it has risk. Yeah. Splashing. Yep, splashing the water. Think about from the casino machine, because these are very linked. The casino machine and this are very tied in. Okay, there's sound. Yep, there's sound. Variable rewards. Bingo. Variable rewards. They're not big rewards, but they're not hugely variable, but just tiny differences. I don't know if I go like that, or I know it's going to be bigger, but I don't know what the damage is going to be. I don't know what it's going to end up looking like. Also, there's something really interesting that we're naturally drawn into puddles. You're walking down the road. The ground is wet, but there's a shiny patch that's perfectly reflecting your environment. And as you walk towards it, that's an image that's changing. Remember EasyJet, the changing image? That's the only thing on the floor that's changing as I walk towards it. So I'm drawn into it. It's shiny, it's reflecting, and I'm like, oh, ooh. Okay, so it plays on my curiosity. We get an instant result. This is really essential, same as the casino industry. instant results, instant feedback. Okay. It allows us to explore. We can create our own rules. So this is something, again, about, say, platforms. This variable reward and this moving image is actually applied in Twitter, Instagram, even Facebook, the timeline. You go there, you don't know what to expect, and you're going to get this variable reward of different images, different messages. You can create your own rules. In such a small, confined space, you can create your own rules. So I can do this on my own, or we can do this together, or we can do this against each other. So we can have a zero-sum game, especially with parents. I win, you lose, and then Dad goes, please don't, you just got me all wet, thanks. They were nice trousers. There goes my job interview. So, it has all these variances, but they're small. And it's simple. Simple is really, really key here. Adults, we like simple. Kids like simple. We like to just make it our way. Okay, so we have 5 more minutes left, and any other questions about emotional products? Because for me, emotional products are actually easy. I'm biased because that's all I've done. But I recognize it's easy because the secret is not to complicate.